Pilates people, welcome to today's workout. In traditional mat Pilates, there's actually only maybe 15-ish true exercises I think that Joseph Pilates came up with. So very often I take that Pilates base and I just play with it. Today I'm going to do something a little bit more traditional, so there are no toys or props and all you need is your towel or your mat. So go ahead and come all the way down on the mat for me. Remember that your breathing in Pilates is actually part of your exercise. So try to really think about and focus on your breathing as you're doing this for me. Take your feet about hip distance apart. Place your feet nice and heavy into the floor. Tuck your belly button in towards your spine. Grab onto your thighs so that there's a little bit of spinal mobility. And then inhale up and lengthen. So when you're thinking about your spine, think of it as a little spring. And you're sort of pressing it back and creating space in that back side. And then when you lengthen up, you're just pulling those vertebrae as far apart from each other as you can. Last one. This one we're going to roll all the way down for 4, 3, 2. Inhale your arms overhead and bring your hands down by your side. Before you start, I want you to find some really good positioning for me. So that means you're a neutral spine, your whole back shouldn't touch the floor. But as you do that, it's like I placed a heavy weighted plate right here on your belly button. And so your lower back and your belly button really are pulling heavy down towards the earth. Inhale your arms overhead without letting your rib cage pop up, without letting your belly button push out. Bring your hands back down by your side, and on your exhale, lift your head and shoulders. Reach those hands as far down by your hips as you can. Start with your palms down for me as you inhale for 5 little pats. Turn your palms up and exhale for 5 little pats. Palms down, inhale. Palms up, exhale. Palms down, inhale. Palms up, exhale. Keep going. Remember, it's your hundreds pat. So you're going for 100 little breath cycles right here. If you would like, you can bring your feet up into chair position. And exhale. Good. Lengthen the legs as you inhale. And exhale. Good. Inhale for 5. Exhale for 5. You can even lengthen your legs away. Last 2 breath cycles. Inhale for 5. Exhale for 5. Inhale for 5. Exhale for 5. Placing the hands underneath your bottom. Slight bend to the knees or just double leg lower all the way down. Inhale your arms overhead. Exhale with those legs flat. I want you to reach as far as you can. Now I want you to stay nice and even. So if you're going to grab on, I want you to bend both legs. Give yourself a slightly assisted roll up. And roll all the way back and down. Super controlled. As soon as you feel like you can, make those legs straight on the floor. Push your legs down in. Inhale the arms overhead. So one more time, the assisted roll up, stay centered. Do not grab one side, but really bend those knees. Grab both. Pull yourself all the way up. Sit up just as tall as you can. So think of a straight line and then a C curl. Backing down one little vertebrae at a time. Straighten those legs. Now when you feel ready, leave those legs straight. Don't grab on at all. Just super smooth, one little vertebrae at a time. Roll it up off that mat. Inhale as you lengthen out towards those legs. Exhale when you're rolling down. Inhale on the stretch. So you go with your own breathing. It doesn't have to be the same timing as mine. Just really blow the air out as you're coming up to seated. Inhale as you lengthen. Exhale when you're rolling down. And then inhale, lengthen. Just a couple more. Really blow the air out on the roll up. Use the breathing to help you. Lengthen out. Try not to cheat. Try to really use good form. And lengthen everything down on the mat. Give me one more. All the way down. Hands down by your side. Bending one knee, bringing it into your chest, and then the opposite knee. and lengthen both legs right into rollover. So press with your palm and your forearm nice and hard into the floor. As you go ahead and shift the weight with those legs, trying to lift your hips up off the mat and back. Shift the weight, trying to lift your hips and back. So any little pop that gets that nice little tightening in your abdominal wall is a beautiful place to be. If you would like to come a little bit higher, you can start to roll a little bit more. You have the option of trying to find that little point of control and just stop, and then super controlled roll it down. Or if you would prefer to take the arms right here pressing into the floor out of it, you can turn palms up. And nice and controlled, set those hips down. 2 more right there, a little bitty lift. And super controlled lower. Last one, lift. Release it down, place those hands flat on the floor. Leave your left leg up towards the ceiling as you start to lower that right leg down towards the floor. Nice and controlled. If at any point you feel like your back is going to pop up or your belly button is going to push out, go ahead and bend that knee and place the foot flat on the floor. Otherwise, lengthen that straight leg all the way out. Listen to your body and where it needs to be working today. Squeezing that hip joint so your knee turns out to the side and this cute little inside part of your heel is peeking at you for leg circles. Teeny tiny circle and stop. Circle and stop. So if you had a tennis ball right above your foot, that's about the size, or like a nice size orange. A little bit, circle and stop. And circle and stop. 4 like that. Think about the hip joint. You've got that little ball and socket joint. You're circling that leg, but your hips and your pelvic bone are staying perfectly still where they are. Last one. Now we're going to play with that. Make it just a little bit larger, about the size of a dinner plate. A little bitty circle and stop. Now if you try 1 or 2 of those and your knee is starting to bend, or you're like, I just don't really have the flexibility for that, then take it back into that smaller circle and work on that so that your body's getting the chance to get stronger and more flexible. For 4 right there. 3, 2, really controlled, nothing on the mat moves, and stop. Reverse the circle, opposite direction. Teeny tiny size of a tennis ball. Circle and stop. 6, think about that foot on the floor pressing down, whether the knee is bent or straight. Think about your hips evenly pressed in the floor. Don't let your weight rock side to side. Press your shoulders down away from your ears and let your shoulder blades be heavy into the mat. And 1. Now try for that medium-sized circle about the size of a dinner plate. Really squeeze in this leg so it's still super turning out to the side. You should already be super warm in that hip joint. Circle and stop, and make those circles dynamic. Strong and sharp. There's a start and a stop, but nothing on the mat goes with you. Give me 2 more. And last one. Pull that knee into your chest for just a little break. Pull the opposite knee in, lengthen both legs up, and start on the other side. So the leg that was just doing all that work is now going to lower down towards the mat for me. Remember, if at any point you feel like your belly button or your back is going to start to pop up, just bend your knee and set your foot flat on the floor. Otherwise, lengthen that leg all the way out onto the mat nice and straight. Good. Before you start, find that form by squeezing in that hip joint and taking your femur bone, your thigh bone, turn it all the way out to the side, so the knee's out to the side, but your heel is in towards you, kind of peeking out at you, and giving that teeny tiny circle and stop. Little bitty. So it's like a little tennis ball is the size of that little circle. And you're trying to keep everything on the mat perfectly still and move that leg all by itself. Fight for straightening that knee so that you're working on your flexibility at the same time you're working on your strength. Good. 3 right there. Really sharp. Circle and stop. 2. Bring that to a stop and make it slightly larger so it's about the size of a dinner plate. Push this supporting leg down into the floor. Keep your hip joints evenly pressed into the mat so you're not rocking your weight from one side to the other. So everything on the mat or the floor is super fighting for control as this leg is trying to make this slightly larger circle and really fight for that flexibility. Just give me one more of those medium circles, bring it to a stop, and reverse, but start really small. Teeny tiny. Point your toes, lengthen your leg. Remember, a huge part of this work is simply squeezing down here in the hip joint to try and turn that leg out to the side so your knee just kind of shifts away from you a little bit. And you're squeezing deep in that hip. You should know that ball and socket joint, those muscles should be feeling this already. For 3 more. Almost there, breathe through it. And then go into that medium-sized circle. So remember, it's just about the size of a dinner plate. It's not too terribly large. The size of an American dinner plate, which is probably larger than dinner plates should be. But your circle on that ceiling is not terribly large. Circle and stop. Good. Think about everything on the mat being completely under control, turning your leg out to the side. Think about your breathing and circle your leg for 2 more. You've got this. Last one. And pull that knee in towards your chest. A little bitty stretch. Go ahead and pull the opposite knee into your chest. Also, place your hands behind your thighs and rock and roll yourself all the way up to a seated position, right into rolling like a ball. So when you're rolling like a ball, you're trying to come up to a balanced position and stop right there without your toes being what stops you, but allowing all the muscles right here through your core, your back and your abdominals to roll you back and to roll you up. So the idea is that your legs stay really still. So maybe you grab on top of your ankles to roll back and to roll up. Maybe you decide to take your hands out of it to roll back. Or maybe you decide to grab nice and low on those shins. Hold on to your elbows as you roll back. And then don't let go of those elbows as you roll back up. Give me 2 more wherever you are. And up. Last one. And up. Good. Releasing those feet flat onto the floor. We're going to take ourselves all the way back down and work on our leg series. So pulling one knee in towards your chest, I want you to start to lengthen the other leg out on the floor and lift it up to just barely hover. Again, if you get into this position and your lower back is talking to you, that's a function issue. That is not a I'm right or wrong issue. So simply start to bring that foot higher until your lower back is working where it needs to be working. On your next exhale, raise your head and shoulders. Look down at that lengthened leg. Take your outside hand on the ankle. Take your inside hand to the knee. Give me a teeny tiny pulse with that leg. And switch. Outside hand's going to go to the ankle. Inside hand's going to go to the knee. Play with this lengthened out leg. Really look out over it. Now, you can use your hands to pull for that little pulse, or as we switch, you can pulse with the leg, no hands. Pulse and pulse. That means that now these hands are just helping you to keep that leg in line so that as you pulse, your ankle doesn't start to kind of swing out to the side. Your knee doesn't start to swing out to the side, but you just pulse, pulse. Switch, pulse, pulse. Few more seconds right there. And switch. Give me 1 more on each side. And switch. And then bring both knees in. If your head and neck are starting to get tired, just lower your head down onto the mat for me. As you start to push those feet out away from you, lengthen your hands out. So you can make anywhere from this nice high V and tuck into the tightest little ball you can to a super straight line towards the floor and tuck in. So you're gonna have 4 of those. Make sure you don't speed up, excuse me, but lengthen out and tuck in. You can kind of play with where you go and tuck in. On those hands, you can kind of imagine you're taking a top hat off pushing it overhead, and then circle those arms around, reach for those feet. One more, lengthen out, tuck in, staying up with those head and shoulders, grab onto your legs a little bit and rock so that you're really trying to stack your head over your shoulders and not jet your chin out to the ceiling so that you give the front of the neck a break and you're still really working through those abdominals. Lengthen one leg up for scissor, lengthen the other leg out. Remember to play with that range of motion. Listen to your back, because what you want to do is get the abdominals tight and work through those core muscles, but you don't want to start arching and straining through that low back. So be really mindful of where you're working. Little pulse, you can grab with the legs, the hands, and pull, or you can pulse without the hands and just double pulse those legs. Give me 4 sets and pulse. 3 and pulse. 2 more and pulse. 1 more each side. And then grab onto those legs and let them pull you all the way up to seated. Nice job. Lengthening your legs out. I want your feet to be about hip distance apart. By God's grace, that is really only 4 to 6 inches, even for all of us. Your hips are not that wide. So keep those feet close enough together that when you lengthen your arms straight out from your shoulders, they're pretty close to tracking one on top of the other. In spine stretch, it's like the back of your head and your spine are leaning against a really straight wall. Tuck your chin in towards your chest, and first feel like you're peeling your spine down off that wall, kind of curling in like a snail. Lengthen out, reach over those legs, and then tuck it back in as much as you can as you stack your little vertebrae one on top of the other, like you're stacking cups, straight in a nice straight line. So tuck your chin in, lengthen out, reach for those feet, tuck your chin in, curl, and stack that spine. Now think about your breathing for me. Blow all the air out. Inhale as you reach towards those feet. Blow all the air out. And then inhale as you sit and stack tall. Think about lifting from the top of your head. Blow all the air out on the curl down. Inhale the air in on the stretch. Blow all the air out as you curl and start stacking. And inhale as you lengthen and stretch that spine. Last one. Blow all the air out. Lengthen and reach. Stack the spine. Lift tall. Good. Being sure that you have plenty of room behind you to roll back down on your mat. I want you to tuck your chin into your chest. Keep your legs as straight as possible. Remember, a slight bend in the knees can really help with the back. And roll down. Super duper slow. Don't get to the floor yet. You've got 4, 3, 2, and 1. Give me a super long stretch right there. Feel like somebody's pulling your fingertips to one wall and your toes to the opposite wall. And then bring your hands back in and down. Good. We're going to work on our double leg lowers. So we're going to start with a single leg lower. You can bend your knees to bring them up to 90, or you can slowly lift one leg up to 90 degrees. Belly button pulled in. Do that little kegel squeeze. Next leg lifts up. Right there. Lower one leg towards the mat. Don't touch. And bring that leg right back up. Now, just like we were talking about in the single leg stretch, you have to find the point of control where your body needs to be working today. Just like if you went into a weight class, you wouldn't feel like you had to pick out the 100-pound barbell because somebody else was using a 100-pound barbell. You would simply work with what your body needed to be working with that day. Same thing on these Pilates moves. You really want to play with the range of motion. And so when you get to a point that you're like, my abdominals got tight, I'm working really hard right here, wait for it and bring it right back in. Same thing if you decide to do a double leg lower instead of a single leg lower. Start lowering your legs down. There's going to be a point where the abdominal wall gets just like little steel bands, super tight. And then you just lift it right back up. Nothing arches up, nothing pushes to the ceiling. Good. If you feel like you would rather You always have the option of putting your hands right here underneath your bottom and double leg lower. Find that point where it gets tight and bring it right back in. Good, so let's talk about the breathing for a second. Inhale on the down. Exhale on the up. And go with your own breathing for 3. Nice deep inhale on the lower. Exhale on the lift. Inhale on the lower. Deep as you can fill those lungs. Pull the belly button towards the floor. Do that little internal squeeze, that Kegel squeeze. That I'm on a road trip and there's not a bathroom for 500 miles squeeze. That one right there. Lower those legs. Lift right back up. Okay, for good measure, one more in case I lost count. Inhale, lower. Exhale, lift up. And then bend those knees just a little bit for me. You're really going for sort of a 90-degree angle right here at the knees, as if you were kind of sitting in a chair. Place your hands right behind those knees and rock and roll yourself up to seated. When you are in this top position, you want to almost feel like there's something balanced on your shins right here. So you want your feet to be just straight out from your knees and not dropping down to the floor. So inhale as you roll back, and exhale, find that little stopping point and balance. Inhale, roll back. So that's your open leg rocker. You just inhale, roll back, and exhale, roll up. You have the option of doing a straight leg rocker, grabbing behind your thighs, calves, or ankles. Inhale, roll back. Exhale, find the stopping point. Find that little hold to balance at the top. Now, whether you're doing open leg rocker or straight leg rocker, you also have the option of taking your hands out of it to roll back and to roll up to balance. 3 more. Find that little point of control at the top, that little stop for me. 2 more. Pull your belly button into your spine. Don't push it out. Last one. With the knees pulled all the way in, gently set yourself all the way down on the mat. Okay, go ahead and lengthen those legs up to the ceiling. Find what we like to call the Pilates stance, which means that you are turning your legs out from way down here in the hip joint. So you're taking this whole thigh bone and opening it out to the side, pulling your knees out to the side, kind of twisting your heels in towards each other. Now I want you to squeeze those heels and calves and thighs against each other so tight it's like you're holding onto a silk ribbon. And I'm trying to yank it out away from your feet, and you're not gonna let me. Squeeze those legs a little tighter. Now push them away from you just an inch or 2. Good, and now we're gonna work on corkscrew. So in that position, you're gonna draw a little circle the size of a wall clock in one position and stop at 12. And then draw a little circle the other direction. Now you're still super squeezing those legs together for me, right? And circle and stop. Good. Now I want you to think about your hip joints. As you're doing this circle, the goal is that your hips are super glued down into the mat. So you don't want to let one side sort of lift up or one side over press into the floor, but you want to squeeze with the center of your body to keep everything nice and even as you circle and stop. Just 2 more little sets wherever you are. So circle and stop. And reverse that for me. Give me 1 more in each direction. Reverse that little circle. And then bring those knees in. And again, rock and roll yourself up to a seated position. Good. We're going to open out into a straddle position. You have a lot of options if you are not super flexible. One option is that this is your straddle position, and this is a great place to be because it's about the way God made you. It's not about achieving something in particular in this seated position. You also have the option of taking a little towel or a shoe or a little yoga block, and you can sit on that, come into your sort of straddle position, but let yourself sort of rock forward off of that teeny object. So it's almost like it kind of lifts your bottom up out of the way and shifts you forward onto your sits bones, which are the 2 little bones at the top of your thighs, not that one tailbone right in the center. If you feel that one bone in the center, you've kind of rocked back. Good, lengthen your arms out, right for saw. Pinky finger past the pinky toe, twist and reach, and lengthen. Switch sides, twist and reach, and lengthen. So exhale twice, inhale deep, and inhale deep. Now imagine that your abdomen is sort of like a towel and it's wet and you want to wring all the water out. So really look behind you as you twist through that torso. Look behind you and twist. One more in each direction. Twist and twist and lift up, and teeny tiny circles of the arms right there. So you're going to try, you might need a tiny bend in the knees. Your legs might be getting a little bit tired. You're going to try and stay in the straddle position just for teeny tiny arm circles. There's not going to be a ton of them today. You won't be here terribly long because you're already halfway, and you're going to reverse that circle and get backwards. Now as you're circling backwards, think about your pinky getting higher than your thumb for me. Think about the top of your head lifting towards the ceiling and pulling your rib cage up away from your hip joints for 4 more little circles. 3, 2, and 1. Release that down. Good. Swinging yourself all the way around so that you're laying face down on the mat. I want you to take your elbows directly underneath your shoulders for me, and then your hands are parallel. So instead of making sort of a tripod where they come together, shoot them straight out from your elbows for me. Tuck your toes under, push with your hands, and just try to float your elbows a little bit and set them down. Float the elbows a little bit and set them down. Good. Now in this position, pull your belly button into your spine. Lift through your lower back and try to get your hips to float over the mat. So now your thighs are pressed in, your toes are tucked under, and you're going to give me that teeny tiny press to lift the elbows and lower down. So when you lift into this swan, your arms are obviously doing a good bit of work. But if you're really pulling that belly button in, puffing up through that lower back, then you're super squeezing with those back muscles for these last 2 to lift you up and lower you down. 1 more, lift it up. Lower it down. Keep the arms right where they are. Readjust to really pull that belly button and that lower back up off of the mat. Point your toes this time. And 1 leg at a time, you're going to give me 2 little kicks towards your bottom and release. 2 kicks towards your bottom and release. So the goal here is that everything from the shoulders to the knees is super controlled and tight. And that when you kick that leg, you're not letting anything sort of shift you or move you. So you're taking this sort of shifting and rocking forward out of it. And you're just really lifting into this press, press, and press, press. Good, give me 1 more on each side. And then set everything down. Lay yourself all the way flat on the mat. Grab 2 fingers at the base of the spine. Bend your knees and point both toes straight up towards the ceiling. Now imagine there's a spring right here between your hands and your heels. Set 1 cheek down on the mat. On your inhale, you lift up without pushing your belly button into the floor. That spring pulls with the heels and the hands away from you. And then you bring everything in and set it down. So inhale on the lift up. Stay for a nice, smooth, deep breath. Exhale on the lower down. Inhale on the lift up. Exhale on the lower down. That's halfway. 2 more. Inhale on the lift up. Feel like your hands pull away from you as those feet lengthen out. Inhale up. Exhale, gentle set down. Last one. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, set it down. And then lengthen those legs out. Good. Tuck your toes under. Lift your knees up off the mat. Pull your belly button as high as you can up off the mat and straight as a board. Push right up into a plank position and hold for 4, 3, 2, Drop the knees and sit back into child's pose. Nice job. Good, rolling yourself over onto your side for me. I really have a great preference for you to lay your arm down or to bend your elbow and cradle your head for the simple fact that it keeps the line of your spine from the top of your head through your tailbone. And if you do this, it's very obviously breaking the line of your spine. But for a lot of us, when we try to come up and still keep this straight spine as we work, we kind of start to sink down and lose the integrity of the spine. So it's my preference, I cannot see you, that you would lay flat on the mat. Lift that top leg up, flex your foot, so push out through your heel, pull your toes back, and then turn it down so that your big toe is touching the bottom foot. And give me a teeny tiny lift and lower, nice and smooth, lift and lower. 6, 5, little bitty lift, just warming up the outer thigh. 3, belly button into your spine. Ideally, there's this little space right here. On this last one, lift it up and hold. Point the toes, draw teeny tiny circles. Really, when I say teeny tiny, think about the size of a dime and make it so small, and it's just a little spiraling circle. So there's not really a start and a stop to this circle. 2 and 1, reverse the circle. Just go in the opposite direction. Keep it as small as you can. Point your toes. Breathe through it. 3, 2. Good. Now I want you to flex the foot like we were doing a second ago and press your heel as far forward as you can without your hip moving. Then point your toe and drag your foot as far behind you as you can. Same thing, hip doesn't move. So flex the foot, push the heel forward, point the toe, drag it back. Flex the foot, push the heel forward, point the toe, drag it back. One more slow, flex the foot, push forward, point the toe, drag back. If you need, your hand can be right here, but do not shift the hips as you give me 2 pulses forward, 2 pulses back. Flex the foot, press, press forward, point the toe, push, push back. 2 pulses forward, 2 pulses back in, one more. And back, and then lengthen it out right there. Point the toes. Teeny tiny, take the bottom leg, clap the heels and lower. So slow, clap and lower. Clap and lower. Just barely touch the heels. Now see if you can touch the heels and not touch the floor. Touch the heels and then lower to hover. 2 like that. 1, and then little bitty heel claps. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Bend those knees in, open your arms to a T, just take a little breather, a little stretch. And I think that's about enough. So press yourself up and over to the other side. Rolling right over onto that side. Same thing, cradle your head. Try to keep the integrity of the spine. There's a little space down here. Belly button's pulled in and up. Hips are stacked. Hand could be in front for balance if you need. Lift that top leg up. Flex the foot, push out through the heel. Pull the toes back towards you and then touch your big toe down towards that bottom foot as you gently lift and lower. So it's not really big. It's just enough that you get this little squeeze and you just start to warm those legs up. 4 like that. 3, super smooth breathing. Inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. 1 more. Lift it up. Point the toes. Teeny tiny circles, size of a dime. Belly button in towards the spine. Really lifting up this side. Really trying to keep those hips stacked and not moving. 3, 2, and just reverse that circle right there. So circle the opposite direction. Now if the second side on the leg series ever feels tired faster than the first, it's because it's pushing down to stabilize you. And so you just realize that both legs are really working this whole time. 2, And one, flex the foot, slow push forward, hips stay stacked. Point the toe and drag like you're dragging through mud and push it towards the wall behind you. You really only need to go an inch or two until you feel the back of the leg just tighten and squeeze. Press forward, point, squeeze back. You're fighting for this little balanced position right here. Remember, your hand can be forward, but do not shift this hip. And when I say that, the temptation is when you push forward, you're tempted to rock back here to balance, but don't do that. Squeeze for the balance. Point the toe. Do not shift forward. Squeeze for the balance. Now give me the pulses. 2 forward, point, 2 back. 2 forward, and 2 back. 2 more sets. Pulse, and squeeze. 1 more. And squeeze. And lengthen out right there, just balancing the top leg above the bottom leg. Bottom heel meets the top and lowers. Squeeze and lower. Squeeze. It's not fast, it's about that really tight squeeze. Now add the hover. So tap the heel, don't touch the floor. 3, don't quite touch. 2, last one right there. And little bitty heel claps for 4, 3, you've got this. 2, keep those little heels moving. 1, and bend those knees in, nice and close. Open your arms out to a T, look away from your legs, and just breathe. Nice. Roll yourself right over onto your back. A little bitty work on teaser, and then you have made it. We will stretch and be done. In teaser, ultimately, you're going for this beautiful V-sit up where you're balanced on your bottom and your arms are overhead, and it's lovely. We're going to start with our feet flat on the floor. Push your feet into the mat. Inhale your arms overhead. Try not to throw your arms. Simply reach forward towards your legs and lift your upper body. Any lift on this counts. So you can be anywhere from here to lifting nice and high. Don't come all the way up to seated. Here your abs release. Here your abs are still working. So stop back here and set it down. Good, just 1 more like that. Lift. Now remember how I talked about earlier that you wouldn't pick up a 100-pound dumbbell? Same thing. This can be your move the whole time. You don't have to change anything. But we're going to play with it. So lengthen one leg out, blow the air out, reach towards the foot. Just balance and hold. Pull your belly button in and back. Think about that kegel squeeze. Set it down. Do that again. This time when you lift up, same leg, lift up, but think about the arms going overhead. And think about that beautiful V position that I was talking about at the beginning that we're just sort of working towards. Bring it towards the legs and come down. And if you're doing a single leg lift, switch sides for me. Blow the air out, reach for the leg, and on the first one, just leave the hands right there. Let the abs get a little bit tighter. Work into that hip flexor a little bit. And super gentle, set it down. Good. On the second one, same leg, lift up, reach the arms overhead, go for the prettiest little V-sit you can find. 2, 1, reach for it, set it down. Now you have the option of knees bent, 1 on one side and 1 on the other side, or lengthen both legs up for me. Good. On this first one, we're going to start with our hands overhead. Let the lowering of the legs start to pull your upper body up. Remember, you can stop right here, or you can start to lift to here. Finding that balanced position, still just reaching towards the feet on this first one. Breathe through it. Find that balance. Hold, hold, hold. And set it down. Good. On the last one, try to lengthen your legs away. Think about only the upper body. The lower body's not going to move. And as you come up with your upper body, start to lengthen those hands back. Prettiest little V-sit you got for me for 4, 3, 2. Everybody knees into the chest. Roll it back and down and take a deep breath. Great job. You did so good, I'm sure. I feel confident. Stir your knees in a little circle. Let the weight of your legs just sort of massage your lower back into the floor. If it feels better for you, you can just sort of rock side to side. If you are starting in a circle after about 3 or 4, just reverse that circle and go the other direction. Think about that super deep inhale. And exhale like you're blowing out birthday candles. Good. Keeping one knee in, start to walk the other leg out. Lengthen that leg up towards the ceiling, grabbing behind your thigh, calf, or ankle, and just slowly start to circle that foot for me. So every time you kind of flex the foot and pull the toes back, you should get a little deeper stretch on that hamstring, and then reverse, circle it the other way. Good. Bending that knee in towards your chest, pulling it across the body first. Take the hand on this side and pull it away from that knee for me. Little back twist, little hip and shoulder stretch all at the same time. And release. Before you come back into center, do open your arms out and pull your belly button in towards your spine so that you are protecting your lower back as you come back into center. Good. Switching for me, pulling the opposite knee in, lengthening the leg you were just stretching out on the floor. Grab behind your thigh, calf, or ankle, and just start to straighten that knee as much as your body's going to allow today. Circle that foot in one direction. And after 3 or 4, circle it the other way. Same thing, every time you super flex that foot, try to get that little extra stretch in there for it. And then pull that knee in towards you. Good, pulling it across your body to the opposite side. Take that hand, grab onto it, and pull it away from those legs. So you're stretching everything from the hip, through that mid back, up into the shoulder. And release that. Grabbing onto one knee and pulling yourself all the way up to seated. Good. Just lengthening those legs out for me. I want you to start to walk your hands forward. Don't really pull or grab onto anything. Just wherever your hands are going to kind of fall. Let your body in the same way just sort of fall forward over those legs. Little stretch through the low back and the hamstrings, the back of the legs. 2 deep breaths right there. So inhale through the nose. And exhale through the mouth. One more time. Inhale. And exhale. And stack that spine and bring it all the way up to seated. Nice. Bending one knee, you can leave it right there, or you can cross it over the opposite leg. Take your opposite hand and grab onto that leg. Same hand as leg. Swing it all the way up and over so there's an opening through your chest and shoulder as you pull yourself into a little back twist. And then give me a teeny tiny tug on that leg so there's a little stretch through that hip, pushing the hip down towards the floor. Maybe even taking that elbow outside the knee for a little twist. And then release and switch sides for me. So bend the opposite knee. You can cross it over if you would rather. Take the opposite hand to grab the knee. Same hand as leg. Reach it all the way up and over. Big circle so you're opening through your shoulder. Use the traction of the floor to kind of pull yourself into a little back twist. And then same thing, give me a little tug right here on the knee. Maybe even a little push down to the hip so there's a stretch on the outside of the hip. Or take that elbow outside the knee and pull into a little deeper back twist. And release, good. Nice little easy seated position. Place your hands on the floor just in front of your feet and press your hips and your bottom nice and heavy down into the floor. Slowly start to walk your hands forward. but really keep your chin forward and your chest forward. So you're trying to make the most flat back stretch you can. So as you go forward, you're really thinking about your spine staying straight and not turtling or curling down. Use the traction of the floor. Pull with your hands just a little bit so you pull yourself a little deeper into that stretch, and then press those hips super heavy down into the floor for me. And walk it back in. And just switch right over so that you have the opposite foot in front. I sort of tease that it's like the wonky leg because it's never the way you would naturally sit if someone told you to sit cross-legged. Walk those hands out. Press your rib cage and your chest forward. So even if it's right here, if you're pushing forward and this is where you feel your stretch, that's perfect. That's exactly where you want to be. And then take those hands and just give the teeniest, tiniest little pull right there. Make your hips super heavy down into the floor for 3, 2, and 1. Walk those hands in. We're gonna go from a squat into a forward fold into standing. If you know that your knees or hips, do not do the squat position because it is not appropriate for you. Then simply press yourself up into a forward fold. Otherwise, coming into that little squat position, let your weight shift forward just a little bit so you feel a nice stretch through your calves and your Achilles tendons. If your heels are almost down and you step your feet out just a little bit wider, sometimes I can help you get your heels down. If your heels are flat on the floor and you feel like you might need a little bit more of a challenge, sometimes walking your feet a little bit closer together can feel a little more challenging. Just play with it, see how you feel. Good, then right there, just rock your weight forward enough that you can bring your hands towards the floor, start to lift your hips, and just start to straighten your knees as much as your body will allow today. Good, right there, just a super deep inhale through the nose, and exhale through the mouth. Imagine that your hands and your arms are filled with water or wet sand, something super heavy. Imagine that your head is super heavy, like a little bowling ball, and it's just pulling and lengthening through that spine down towards the floor. One more deep breath. And this time when you exhale, tuck your belly button into your spine and start to roll yourself all the way up standing, really letting your head and your hands hang behind you. Nice and heavy for 3, 2, and all the way up. Good. Swing forward, interlace the fingers, chin to chest, back stretch. Swing those hands back behind you. Maybe even let the palms touch, open to the chest. Good. Do that one more time. Hands forward, upper back stretch, chin to chest. Open wide, interlace those hands. Maybe even put the palms together, really look up and stretch. And 2 deep breaths. Inhale. Exhale, swing those arms back behind you. Pull your shoulders back and down. Inhale. Imagine you're dragging your fingertips against the wall behind you. Open through your chest and shoulders. And give yourselves a hand. You did a really great job today. I'm so thankful that you watched. And I'm super thankful that you watched long enough that you're actually here to hear me say this. So if you would like to see more videos, you can click on my little face, either all the way down below or at the very end of this video, there should be a little subscribe button that you can push on. Thanks again.